So when the achievement grind was born over a year and a half ago, the very first series that I ever covered for the channel was Dishonored. And from that one tiny idea, that little test that I wanted to do and that silly little video that I wanted to make has now branched into, well, the YouTube channel that we've got today. And it goes without saying that I am so thankful for all of yous, because I never thought I'd be able to do something like this with my life, and yet here we are. So today's video is going to be a supercut of me getting every single achievement in every single Dishonored, and to see how the grind has evolved from over a year and a half ago to the content that I'm creating today. So folks, if you can't tell, it is going to be a long one today, so grab yourself some snacks and a drink, get yourself comfy, and let me take you on the journey of unlocking every single achievement in every single Dishonored game. And just to reaffirm that these videos were made a year and a half ago, so the way that I do the grinds is very different to the content I put out today. However, I hope you all enjoy it. I'm going to waste no more time and let's get to the very first game in the list, Dishonored. So, I don't like Dishonored. Now, I know probably not the way you was expecting this video to start, but it is true. Back when I first played this game over 10 years ago, I played a couple of hours, turned it off and never picked it back up again. For little 15-year-old me, it just didn't deliver what I was expecting. I wanted to be a deadly assassin, and most of the time I was just desperately trying to find healing items because I kept launching myself off buildings that I couldn't blink to properly. But Dishonored was a game that I always really wanted to love. I adore Bethesda games, and being a massive fan of other stealth games like Hitman, the classic Tom Clancy series, and then with its also similar vibes to BioShock, which is one of my favourite games of the 360 generation, I really did expect myself to love this game, but I just didn't. But now it's 10 years later, my tastes have changed and so has, well, my age. As an achievement enjoyer, I decided to set myself a challenge, play it again, and get every single achievement. Once done, then I get to finally have an opinion on Dishonored. So, this video is my journey through the game, for more or less the first time, and seeing if this beloved title can finally hook me and convince me to call myself a fan. So, that's it. Let's get started. Welcome to the achievement grind. So, since I knew this game required multiple playthroughs to get all of the achievements, I decided on my first playthrough, I wanted to go for super stealth and be a pacifist. No kills of any kind, no one alerted, a total ghost. I think that's where I went wrong when I was younger. When I played this game originally, I was a gun-toting maniac. I didn't need to rely on smart movement, clever power use, and the advantage of surprise, as I was just the type to throw grenades, shoot, and slice my way through from point A to point B. So I wanted to give the other playstyle a try. The base game of Dishonored has the bog standard 50 achievements, and I need them all. So in my first playthrough, I decided to go for all of the achievements based on the pacifist run, which includes the main story missions, Dishonored, excommunication, childcare, capturing genius and madness, political suicide, long live the Empress, this is mine, and resolution. These are the achievements you'll grab by just progressing the story and finishing the game, no matter the path really. However, since I'm going for no kills and no detection as well, I'll also be going for these achievements, namely Vanished, Faceless, Spectre, Surgical, Ghost Shadow, Just Dark Enough, Poetic Justice, and the infamous Clean Hands. And that's not including the other achievements that we'll pick up on the way. So, I set off to Dunwall, and I was instantly reminded how stunning this game is, and how unique the look was. It didn't feel like a game that was already 10 years old, as like Borderlands, its style made it unique enough to enjoy at any time. Not that graphics dictate quality, but you get what I'm trying to say. After failing to save the Empress, we escape prison and manage to sneakily and stealthily get our hands on the first two achievements, Vanished and Dishonored, which were probably the easy achievements in the game. However, we gotta start somewhere. Now onto the main game. After meeting the gang who rescued us, we then got our supernatural powers from the outsider, a human, I think, that lives in a place called the Void. He bestows his mark on those that seem worthy. Think of him as an edgy, emo version of Odin. Instead of gaining Mjolnir, you gain a spicy new hand tattoo and the ability to launch yourself immediately to your death. But with tattoo on hand, I was ready for the first mission, which was to eliminate the High Overseer Campbell, who is one of those peasants who double-crossed you at the start. And that's all you're told. The game drops you off at the shore and says, go do the thing. So we did the thing. Now I'm not gonna lie, I did struggle going through this mission without killing and silently. My urge to wander and explore sometimes stabbed me in the back when I found myself in tough situations where killing is the easy and obvious method. But I've committed now, so I have to see it through. And through exploring, I was able to find the first of Sokolov's many paintings that we need for the Art Collector achievement, so exploring did pay off in more than one way. However, after spending a little time working my way through the level bit by bit and meeting some lovely characters, we made it to the all-important meeting. Now, a touch of context: before the mission started, we were asked by this woman to save her husband, who Campbell is also planning to double cross and kill by poisoning him with wine. So, after swapping the glasses and letting him escape relatively safely, we get our next achievement, Bodyguard. Now, with Campbell taken care of, it's time to flee the scene and meet Samuel on the boat for a clean getaway. Now, upon completing the level, we gained the achievements Excommunication, Faceless and Spectre, but there was a problem. I had killed someone. Now, since I am a moron, it took me an entire playthrough to then realise the person who I had killed was Campbell. Now, for some reason, I didn't think the targets themselves would count, as you know, the person we were there to eliminate. But after hearing two NPCs talking about how to overthrow him without killing him, I assumed that's what we needed to do instead, and it was. In the building were clues and details on how to brand him with a heretic mark instead, which would essentially strip him of all power and eliminate him. So this time we put him to sleep, threw him in an interrogation chair and gave him a burning new addition to his face. Ah, perfect. Now, meeting up with Samuel for the third time, I was finally able to move on to the next mission. Ugh. Now, the problem is, I didn't know who I startled, so it was impossible for me to go back through my saves and hope. So for the fourth time, we beached, I snuck, I scolded, and I fleed, and thankfully we got both Nobody Killed and Ghost. Honestly, even though I had to replay this mission 4 times because of my own incompetency, I actually was enjoying myself. Now, I don't know if it was because I had a more open mind, or the fact of the playstyle I was using made it trickier, and by proxy a lot more rewarding and fun, but I actually started to feel like the deadly and silent assassin I wanted to back when I was 15, so we pressed on. This time our mission was to find Emily, the daughter of the Empress that was killed back in the intro, and who we are very close with and very protective of. We need to bring her back to safety as well as eliminate 2 of the Pendleton twins, who Slackjaw calls
rich, mean and weird. Worse than most of their ilk.
So, obviously, they've got to go. Upon arriving at the level, it is then said that the way that you play the game will change the levels, the things that inhabit them, and even change the outcomes of the game. The more chaotic you play, the more you kill and burn, the more rats and weepers the game will spawn in, for example. And for those of you that don't know, this game takes place in a steampunk industrial age that is stricken with the plague. Swarms of rats pour into the streets and devour humans, and for the plague-infested humans themselves, they're basically zombies called weepers. Now, straight out of the gate with this mission, it is very highly suggested that I go and see a character called Slackjaw, who is the crime boss of the local Bottle Street gang, and nemesis to Granny Rags, a character we met in the previous mission who was completely off her rocker, but she gave us presents, so we like her. But before we talk to Slackjaw, we must explore. And so I revisited some old buildings for entirely new loot, as well as managed to snag 3 of Solokov's painting in the museum that had just opened up. And before you ask how I knew what the code to the safe was, I didn't. I just tried all the combinations until one worked, and honestly did this for at least like half the safes in the game, because I could. Now the meeting with the mustache heavy Slackjaw. When we arrive, all of his goons are now friendly towards us as he needs a favour. We need to find out what happened to one of his men. If we do that, then he will give us a key that unlocks a better path into the Golden Cat, a bathhouse for local aristocrats, but it's basically a brothel. This is where we think Emily might be held captive. But through exploring, I actually had already found his lost man and the evidence we needed to immediately turn the mission in. And as a man of his word, Slackjaw gives us the key straight away. But before we leave, he then mentions that he wants the code to the safe in the art dealer's museum. And if we get him the code by torturing the art dealer in the bathhouse, then he will take care of the Pendleton twins for us, and even better, not kill them. Basically saying this is what you need for a clean hands. Along the way, it is clear the game is advancing with its chaos. There are more guards, new security towers have appeared that shine spotlights and fire rockets at you if you're spotted by them, and the aforementioned weepers and raps have started to appear as well. But thanks to Slackjaw's key, we more or less ignore all of it, and within moments we are on the roof outside of the Golden Cat. I then snuck in through a window to immediately hear 2 NPCs talking, one of them being the owner of the Golden Cat, Madame Prudence. So we do what we do best and choke her out in her office, steal her things, and throw her unconscious body into the corner. We also do find a note saying that Emily is locked in a room on the floor above us. So, like the hero we are, we immediately choke out a prostitute and rescue Lady Emily from her captives and unlock the childcare achievement. Before we can leave with Emily though, we need to find the art dealer and make him give up the code, which we find and he eventually does.
Oh, that's good. I deserve that one.
Then we trek back to give Slackjaw the code to the safe. Oh, and by the way, the code is to the safe that we broke into earlier, so there isn't anything for him in there because we've already nicked it. But that actually gave us an achievement, the Art of the Steal, which is great. But with that unknown to him, he keeps up his end of the bargain again and neutralises the Pendleton twins for us. With them taken care of, we meet up with Emily, go back to Samuel and sail away on a job well done. And unlike the first mission, we got no kills and Ghost first try. Once back, we deliver Emily and get immediately handed our third mission, to kidnap a painter by the name of Sokolov, the painter that we had met at the beginning of the game and the one whose paintings we are collecting throughout it. We need to kidnap him for information on the Lord Regent's mistress, who is also his financial advisor, and she helped in the plot to kill the Empress, so she's gotta go. For those of you that don't know as well, the Lord Regent is the man who took control once the Empress had died. The now Lord Regent framed us as Jessamines' killer alongside Campbell, and the Lord Regent is now the #1 baddie that we need to find and take out. So to do that, we've got to steal a human. We are then dropped off again by Samuel, but in an entirely new district. Now, other than the lighting differences, there isn't actually too much to really mention about this level. It's fairly similar to the playstyle of the previous ones, as we jump from pipe to ledge to roof. The most memorable part for me was traversing the bridge in the middle, and to be honest, that's only because I got an achievement for climbing to the top. But after several minutes we arrive at Sokolov's house, and thankfully this part of the level is quite fun. When we enter, there are floors of tough enemies, and I have to take them out to move on. Now, I did mess up this part a couple of times normally due to just being detected, so it was really fun to try and figure out the best plan of attack. I also spotted one of Sokolov's paintings on the ground floor, so I needed to grab that too. I immediately get to the strangling and the shooting, and not before long I find a way inside Sokolov's greenhouse, to which I do a little bit more strangling to cart his ass back to the boat. Again, not the most iconic mission, but it was fast enough to just enjoy before moving on, and the change of scenery did help keep things fresh. Upon completing this mission, we also gained Capturing Genius and Madness, as well as the surgical achievements. Oh, and for a really random fun fact, Sokolov is voiced by Roger L. Jackson, who is the voice of Ghostface. Now, I never would have guessed that, but the more you know. Once we get Sokolov in his cell, we bribe him with some expensive plonk, and he tells me that when he did the painting of Miss Boyle, he hadn't a clue which Boyle's sister he was painting, as she faced the other way from him, as well as giving us some pretty important information about the sisters.
Although I can vouch that her hindquarters are the finest in the city.
However, this evening all three sisters are hosting a fancy dress party for the rich and corrupted, and since we already have a mask, it is the perfect chance to go in incognito. Now, the reason why I adore this mission is that it reminds me of one of my favourite missions from any game ever made, the Whodunit quest from Oblivion, where you are tasked with killing all the members of the house without them ever seeing or knowing what has happened. I must have played this mission 20-30 times easily when I was younger, so when I rocked up to the house and was greeted with the same type of vibe, I instantly knew I was in for a good time. Now, the three sisters that host the party are all dressed in the same outfit but coloured differently. There's a red, white and a black one. On the ground floor of the house, we have full access to walk around without the fear of being found out, as my mask looks like fancy dress. So it was actually really calming just to be able to walk around and talk to people, like this funny looking git. This desperate bastard is basically in love with the sister you're trying to assassinate, and he says instead of killing her, bring her to him and they can run away and be together and never be seen again. Which I thought, weird, but you got it. The only part of the house we weren't allowed access to was the upstairs, as that's where all the valuables are. So without a moment's hesitation, I knocked out a guard and headed straight up there to hopefully find some information out about the sisters. After clearing the floor of guards, I find two more of Sokolov's paintings, a metric boatload of loot, as well as information on which sister we need to grab, the one in white. After looting as much as we could and stealing so many coin purses from the patrons who did nothing to stop it, we actually unlocked the achievement Thief, for obvious reasons. We also then find another bone charm which completes the occultist achievement. Then talking to Lady Boyle, we guess her name and convince her to come to the basement as we warn her that somebody is trying to kill her, i.e. me. Once in the basement, we give her a healthy dose of sleep juice before delicately and effortlessly delivering her to Prince Charming.
Someday she'll learn to appreciate me. After all, she'll have her whole life.
And now I just feel gross. But That's it. We hastily leave the party, sneak through the level, and avoid the new tall boy enemies, which are normal men on stilt suits who have better awareness and that can shoot you. It's time to once again return home to get our next mission from the Loyalists, where we also pick up the well-mannered achievement for taking care of the Boyle target without disrupting the party, which I feel rather good about. Now, honestly, at first I was a touch confused at the start of this mission, as it had me going after the Lord Regent, and after only 4 missions I was surprised to think that we were already nearing the end of the game. But I maxed out on Sleep Darts, got an achievement for upgrading our kit 15 times, and proceeded as normal. This mission takes place at the same location at the beginning of the game where the Empress was killed, so we slowly make our way to the main building ready to take out the Lord Regent. Now, it wasn't clear right away what the non-lethal way of neutralising him was, so we had to go exploring. And in doing so, we quickly found the painting in this level above a fireplace, and after some more exploring, we found a radio tower, the room where all of the tannoy announcements throughout the game were originally made. After making the propaganda officer shat in his frillies, we are offered the non-lethal option, which is to find a tape of the Lord Regent's confession to the Empress's murder, as well as being the person responsible for bringing the rat plague to Dunwall and sinking the city into chaos. Now, because we are an explorer, we had already found the confession in the Lord Regent's bedroom safe, and immediately played it for the entire city to hear, as well as gaining the achievement Political Suicide, to which the Lord Regent then is immediately arrested and taken care of. We of course then swiftly leave and head back to Samuel, where we get the achievement Poetic Justice to neutralise all targets without killing them. Then it's back to the pub for celebrations at a mission well done. But oh no! Big twist and shocking revelation! We have been poisoned and double-crossed again by the Loyalists, who consider us a loose end, and thought it would be better for them to actually say that they had killed the Empress's killer, which actually does make sense, to be honest. But thankfully Samuel only gave us a small dose of the poison instead of the full bottle, so we do in fact keep our life. And that's where we meet Dowd, the man who was originally responsible for killing the Empress. He throws away our toys and locks us into a hole that Houdini himself couldn't break out of. I mean, of course I'm lying, it took us 30 seconds to break out and get back onto our non-murderous rampage. Our first port of call though is to get our weapons back from the hole that Dowd threw them in, and on the way we find a painting and meet a new enemy type, these weird annoying spitty acid plant rock thingies. But they don't matter. What does matter is that we eventually find our box of weapons, get them back for the This Is Mine achievement. I then find Dowd again, steal his key so that we have access to the sewers, and fortunately for him, leave him alive. But we did get an achievement out of it for showing him mercy, so worth it I guess. On the way to the sewers is then when I found another of Sokolov's paintings, also on the way finding the last paintings in a room, which then gives us the Art Collector achievement. Now we have returned to the pub, which has been turned into a base for guards and tallboys. After sneaking our way in, we find Sokolov and Piero hiding in his workshop, and that if we shoot this cannon, Samuel will come and take us there on our final adventure to go and rescue Lady Emily so that she may take her place on the throne. Now, this fortress was a touch intimidating at first, I can't lie, but it actually wasn't as tricky as I thought it was going to be. We then very quickly found our way onto an elevator to take us up to the top floor and close this first playthrough. So after taking out a couple of extra guards, we find our way to Havelock, who has also killed other leaders to resume full control for himself. So we knock him out, grab the key to Emily's room and open the door to Long Live the Empress and the end of the game. And thankfully at the end we also unlocked all of the achievements that I was hoping for. We got Shadow, Ghost, Resolution, and most importantly, Clean Hands. We then got the end cinematic telling us, oh what a nice bloke we are and how gorgeous the world is now, before getting our last pacifist achievement, Just Dark Enough. And honestly, I wasn't expecting it to be as short as it was, and even though I had to redo some missions and take a very slow approach to it, we still completed it all within like 10 hours maximum. But I have enjoyed every moment for the most part. There were some occasional areas that gave me a bit of arseache, but nothing that even began to disrupt the fun that I was having during the game. But now it's time to go through it all over again, but this time to grab all of the achievements that require me to kill to get them, as well as a couple that I missed during my first playthrough, and also to end with a high chaos rating. The achievements that I will be going for in this playthrough is Alive Without Breath, An Unfortunate Accident, Back Home, Big Boy, Cleaner, Creepy Crawly, Dunwall in Chaos, Food Chain, Gentleman Caller, Harm's Way, Hornet's Nest, Inhabitant, Lights Out, Manipulation, Merchant of Disorder, Razor Rain, Regicide, Rogue, Tempest, The Escapist, Speed of Darkness, Street Conspiracy, Versatile, and Wall of Sparks. Jesus. But by completing all of these achievements in my second playthrough, we have made it so that we have 49 out of 50. So we set out into the world of Dunwall once again, but this time we caused havoc. Now I'm not going to go through the entire campaign again, but the first achievements we crossed off the list straight away was Rogue for killing 10 enemies unaware. We then got Wall of Sparks by hacking a wall of light to kill enemies instead of me, Razor Rain for drop assassinating 5 targets, Cleaner for killing a group of 5 enemies without dying, the Escapist from running away from 5 enemies without dying, Creepy Crawly for possessing a rat and using a rat tunnel, and then also Inhabitant by staying as a rat for 3 minutes. And finally Speed of Darkness for travelling 30 meters in a second. Now, I got all of this within 30 minutes, so I was already making lovely progress. It was then back to Lord Campbell, who I set on fire and threw out of a window with 0 consequences. But before long I was already back at Samuel with my first high chaos mission completed, and honestly now being able to be seen and to use weapons was a great change in playstyle. There was nothing wrong with sneaking at all, I think I do prefer it, but 90% of Dishonored weapons, gadgets and powers are meant to be used to kill, so now being able to finally use them felt great. Now on to the second mission. I was quick to see Slackjaw and on the way picked up the food chain achievement for assassinating an assassin. Now instead of friendly NPCs, the level was full of weepers, rats and guards, which worked fine for me in my achievement grinding. As, because of this, I accidentally achieved Manipulator, which means we got 5 guards to kill their allies, so I'm guessing a couple of goons just got in the way of the bullets and took the damage for me, so thanks I guess. Now it's time to go and save Emily and kill one of the Pendleton twins with steam, which pretty much excited me. I thought it was going to be kind of like Hitman. I need to draw him into the room or wait for the perfect time to strike, but no. He's already in the room he dies in, and all I need to do was insert a handle into the crank system and fill it with steam, which got him killed and got me the achievement. A little lackluster for me, but we got an unfortunate accident from it. We then move on to the other Pendleton twin, stab him through his rich, stupid throat and go to save Emily again. However, you know how the rest goes, we slice and dice back to Slackjaw, give him the code again before heading back to Samuel. Once back, we quickly possess a fish for Alive Without Breath. During the next mission, nothing really notable happened other than grinding for the Hornet's Nest achievement, where we stopped time and shot 4 people in the head so that it killed them all in under a second. But that's really it. We killed our way to Sokolov, kidnapped him, and you know the rest. It is also worth mentioning that running and gunning makes this game so much easier and quicker. You don't have to rely on smart movement and powers and whatnot, just enter a room, throw a load of shit at them, and job's a good one. Now it was party time again, and we did need to cross some stuff off the list here. First and foremost, we killed a tall boy with nothing but a sword for the big boy achievement. We also still tricked Lady Boyle into the basement, but this time instead of kindly putting her to bed, we stuck a sword through her skull and threw a corpse to her eager lover. On the way back, we also got Tempest by throwing a grenade at a swarm of 6 weepers and instantly killing them all, but nothing of note after that. We went home and immediately went out to kill the Lord Regent. Now again, nothing of value is really worth mentioning here. I killed everyone I saw on my way to the Lord Regent's office, and when I got there, I shot him in the head and stabbed him in the back before running all the way back to the start. You know the drill here as well. We get poisoned, taken away, we escape, get our loot, but this time once we get our items back, we kill every character with an offensive item so that we get the versatile achievement. And I actually did kill Dodd this time, who turns out to be another one of the Outsider's chosen ones. After a slow motion fight, we have him on his knees as he begs for his life.
Good. Made me believe I was powerful.
So here we're going to get 2 achievements, Gentleman Caller for killing Slackjaw and siding with Granny, and Street Conspiracy for siding with Slackjaw and killing Granny Rags. Since she is a strong ass witch, the way that we need to defeat her is by burning a cameo in the furnace to weaken her enough to kill. Once we burn that, she appears angrily and we give her a wonderful taste of bullets before rescuing Slackjaw for the first achievement. We then reload the save and instantly cleave Slackjaw's head off and throw him into a bubbling cauldron before Granny Rags gives us our final gift and, more importantly, the achievement. We then call for Samuel one last time and head to the lighthouse again to finish the game and hopefully get almost all the achievements done. So fun fact, this time when Samuel drops you off, instead of saying one day he hopes we meet again for a drink, this time he says you're a prick and goes to alert everyone that you have arrived by firing his gun. So we also took care of that. Now the only achievements left we needed to grind right now are Back Home, Lights Out and Harm's Way. Back Home we tackled first after finally finding an enemy who consistently threw grenades. The next achievement was Harm's Way. I had to make 5 characters kill themselves. My idea was that if they shoot me, I can stop time, possess them and have them walk in front of their own bullets. Now this was tricky to time, but eventually it worked and 5 suicides later we had the achievement. The last now was the simplest one. We just had to turn off or hack 5 of the security devices through this level. So we disabled the tower's tank, as well as 2 walls of light, we shut down this arc pylon, and finally hacked the last one for the achievement to pop. And that was it, all side achievements completed, and the last part of this playthrough was to simply finish on high chaos. So we sprinted to the top of the tower where Havelock was about to kill Emily, we saved her life as Havelock plummets to the floor, and the chaos ending got us the Dunwall in Chaos achievement of course. But more importantly, we are now at 49 out of 50 achievements done. The last achievement that we now need is mostly Flesh and Steel, which unlocks when we complete the game without buying or upgrading any powers. Just use base blink and that's it. It sounded daunting at first admittedly, to have to go through the entire game again, but realising that the high chaos run only took me 4 hours, and a good hour of that was me grinding achievements, I actually thought this could be quite easy. So for the final time we set off to Dunwall, killed Campbell, saved Emily, killed the Pendleton twins, kidnapped Sokolov, killed Lady Boyle, killed the Lord Regent, got double crossed, made our way back, went to the lighthouse, assassinated Havelock and rescued Emily. Honestly, there isn't really anything to note about this playthrough. It was a decent blend of stealth and aggression, but since I wanted to go through this as soon as possible, for the most time I was just blinking around the place at the speed of light. We then opened the door to Emily and got our final achievement, 50 out of 50. And on the whole, I was totally wrong about this game. I'm not sure if it's because I had more of an open mind or an alternate goal, but I just thoroughly enjoyed playing this game and it did give me exactly what I wanted. Yeah, some things weren't 100% the best and it did feel like they prioritised a higher chaos run over a stealthy one, but I enjoyed all the different playstyles I used and honestly would probably play through this game again sometime. Now, I wouldn't say any of the achievements in this base game are too difficult either. Some of them are grindy and some of them will have you focusing on a specific task for 20 minutes. However, this cannot be said for the 30 DLC achievements. Now, there are 3 DLC expansion packs to this collection, all with 10 achievements each. The Knife of Dunwall, the Brigmore Witches, and the Dunwall City Trials. Now, the Knife of Dunwall and the Brigmore Witches were fine for the most part, a touch grindy I guess, but the Dunwall City Trials, oh my god, I haven't felt rage and hate like this in a long time. But, enough teasing, let's get straight into this mess. Welcome to the achievement grind. So, we're going to be tackling the DLC in the order that I played them, which means, let's get to the Dunwall City Trials. Oh god, here we go. So, the Dunwall City Trials are a collection of different challenges meant to test your abilities. There are combat, speed, and stealth trials, with every challenge testing a different aspect. So, we decided to crack on with them as there are a few to go through, and we need to get 3 stars in all of the missions. The first trial that I tried was Train Runner. This one was simple enough. Blink through the map as fast as you can to reach the exit. I did this fairly quickly to begin with, but unfortunately our score was terrible, so I knew that there was something that I was doing wrong. Now, I also knew that there was an achievement for this level for beating the train to the station, so after experimenting in the next couple of turns, I decided to try and use the train itself for a significant boost. And to my surprise, it worked. I launched myself on top and at the end threw myself with a couple of blinks to the exit. And that worked perfectly. I got the 3 stars as well as the achievement Assassin vs Machine. Now, not a bad start, right? Well, that's what I thought too. Now, the next challenge I went to was the burglar one, where I had to sneak through a house to collect 6 priceless eggs. Once done, we're meant to steal as much as we can before returning back to the start. Now, there are of course guards throughout the entire level, and the more guards that you leave untouched, the more points you get from stealing things. So, I did it relatively well, and after being slow and thoroughly searching the entire place, we left and got the 3 stars. Now, the next level I attempted was Assassin's Run. Now, some of you will know the dread that this level can bring, but the premise is fairly simple. We had to silently and quickly kill 20 enemies scattered throughout the level. Now, regularly, this mission's fine. We actually got 3 stars on the second run. But there's an achievement for this mission called Headhunter, in which you have to kill every single enemy with a headshot and without missing. And this was the first achievement that made me want to throw myself out of a window without blink. The challenge is simple in nature, but oh my god, this drove me insane. The first couple of rooms were fine, a couple of misses, but after a while I had a little system down that seemed to work consistently, so we dealt with it. The third room is where it starts to get tricky. Once entered, it fills with 6 weepers, so lining up headshots with them all walking towards you could be incredibly difficult. However, again, after a while, I came up with a little hack, where if you climb this bookshelf here, they immediately lose you and you're able to headshot them all whilst they're standing still. And the next section isn't too bad either. You headshot 2 assassins fairly easily, but now we get to the worst part. 2 of the enemies are in the distance and you have to shoot them through a window. The distance made it incredibly difficult to hit the one walking on the stairs in the head. Sometimes it would even look like you did, but the run would end on 19 headshots. After that was a couple more rooms with the assassins before reaching the exit. Now this is so buggy. Sometimes you'd shoot an assassin in the head and he would teleport at the exact frame your dart was meant to pierce his skull, so it would count as a miss. So after miss after miss after miss, I finally hit the stair bitch in the head and we finished the level. Oh wait, no we didn't, because that wasn't a headshot. Now I could honestly talk about this level for hours, but after 3 more hours of grinding, we finally hit the headshot without question, and I just needed to wrap up this level without choking. And thankfully we did. Headhunter was achieved and I never have to touch this damn level ever again. Kill Cascade was next, and I went into this knowing that there was an achievement for killing someone with an airdrop kill after falling for at least 150 meters. So I went through the map and noticed that there was a long drop kill highlighted in red, but it was right behind this building. So I decided to climb to the top and thought, why not try? And thankfully it was the perfect spot. I jumped off, corrected myself a couple of times and landed right on the Empress, killing her and getting long way down. We then replayed until we hit 3 stars, which thankfully didn't take too long itself. And I also forgot about the stress of the last trial and was right back to feeling myself. Bonfires was next, and almost reignited the rage from Assassin's Run. In this trial you have to race to each highlighted section that appears on the map. Now there was an achievement for this level too called Daredevil. What this made you do was hit all 6 tricky jumps in a single game. Tricky jumps were special jumps that you kind of had to go out of your way to hit them in a unique way or from like a weird angle. Now after about an hour of trying to find them, I'll be honest, I gave up and googled what they were. And my god am I glad that I did, otherwise I don't think I would have ever finished this level. So let me quickly show you the 6 jumps that I needed. First was this floating rock. We had to drop left and go through this window to land on top of it. After that we had to scale this floating debris and launch ourselves through one of these 2 windows at the top. The third was from this peak that we had to jump off, blink through the open window and land inside, as well as jump off this rock into the same spot. The 5th was to go up the debris again and hop through this window, and finally we have to climb all of the roofs, land on this floating rock and then throw ourselves into the small floating rock again, all in a single game. Now this may not sound tricky, but the RNG of the lights placements is what really breaks this, as sometimes you could hit every jump perfectly, but if you don't get the right lights at the right time, boom, runs over, try again. Now since this was an RNG issue and not necessarily a skill issue, it didn't make me as mad, but it did take me a couple of hours to grind through it. But eventually we got Daredevil as well as 3 stars as well. On to the next. Now it's time for Back Alley Brawl. This level saw you killing wave after wave of different enemies, with each wave getting slightly harder. Now again, there is an achievement for this level too that was an absolute nightmare by my hand alone. Now this achievement has us killing every single enemy in every single level up until round 13. Sounds easy, right? Well, the problem is that the enemies that can spawn can also attack each other, meaning if I'm not fast enough and a soldier kills a Weeper, I have to start again. And remember when I mentioned that the enemies get harder? The Tall Boys and the Dogs and Weepers killed so many of these runs, as the Tall Boys just blew up the entire map and killed things so easily, and the Weepers and Dogs were so easy to kill that if I didn't take them out first, I'd no doubt be starting again when somebody else killed them. Honestly, there isn't too much to say about this, even though it was insanely difficult. It was just a case of try and try again, until eventually, and very thankfully, we were lucky enough to clutch it. We killed a glowy old dude and the achievement was ours. Now, I really don't mean to seem like I'm underplaying the brutality of Headhunter by my hand alone and Daredevil. They were ghoulish, and honestly, I'm so thankful I'm on PC, because on console, I would never have got these achievements in a million years. But we have a couple more to tackle first before moving on from this damn DLC. The next achievement we tackled was Rare Collector. During the Bagel mission where you have to sneak around and steal things, you have to find 16 of these little figurines that are scattered around the house. Now when going for this, I killed everyone and just explored freely, and some of these bastards were truly hidden. But after a slight grind, I finally found the last few, including the last one hidden in the shadow of this bed, which took me ages. After that, it was fairly easy to 3 stars and we moved on. Now, something I haven't mentioned yet is that scattered throughout these trials are little collectible dolls. They're often in very hard to reach places and hidden very well. Now, there is an achievement for collecting all 10, and that's the next one that we got, Mrs. Pilsen's Remorse, and trust me when I say that these dolls were hidden. But now we only have a couple left. The next we go for is time management. In Ben Time Massacre we have to tackle wave after wave of enemies, but this time we have to complete particular challenges to move on through the levels. And this one was a ton of fun. But to get time management we have to complete every challenge without failing a wave, which could be quite tricky. This did take some time to do, but since the missions were more or less the same, it gave me plenty of time to practice until I found a strategy that worked, and then I completed it. And like that we were on our final miscellaneous achievement, to complete Mystery 4 without using our powers. Now Mystery 4 has you going through a level to try and kill a target. Now the target is actually hidden, so to find out who you're meant to kill you have to find clues scattered around that will slowly put you on the right path. Get 4 clues and it will finally show you who you're meant to kill. So all we had to do was collect the 4 clues and assassinate the target. It was fairly easy to be honest, so it was really nice to end on a good note, as now all we have to do is get 3 stars on the rest of the trials, which didn't take us that long at all. And with that we can finally put this chapter behind us forever, bury it permanently, get it gone, I'm done. Now we just have to tackle the Knife of Dunwall, the first part in a 2-part story where we play as Dowd, the assassin from the base game that killed the Empress and threw Corvo's toys away. You know, this guy.
Made me believe I was powerful.
So the story starts with Dowd killing the Empress from his perspective. Soon after he is pulled into the void by the Outsider, who basically says you're gonna die soon, stop being a dick. But how we end Dowd's story completely depends on whether we can find Delilah. No idea who Delilah is, but he leaves us without giving us any context, the bastard. Now a little while later, the first mission has us travelling to a slaughterhouse owned by Bundry Rothwild. A boat called the Delilah has just docked there, so we travel to interrogate Bundry so that we can find out on who this Delilah might be. Now for the DLC, there is again achievements related to chaos and stealth, so like the base game we played through silently and without killing anyone so we could get these out of the way. So we snuck through the level until we managed to enter the slaughterhouse and find Bundry doing a little interrogation of his own. So we put him to sleep and explored the rest of the complex before returning to see that Bundry has bought himself a brand new lovely head screwdriver. We then talked to the person he was interrogating before we get the Just Business achievement. However, I already knew that this wasn't the way to get no kills, so I reloaded and instead took Bundry to interrogate myself. After shocking the information out of him, we throw him in a box and ship him to the other side of the world. Lovely. Before we escape and leave the level. Now during the interrogation, Brundy told us that a barrister named Arnold Timch sold the ship to him after claiming that the name was haunting him. So Dowd and Billy get in touch with Arnold's niece Talia, who has info on the ship that she is willing to share, but to get her to do so we need to dispose of Arnold and grab her grandmother's will from the estate. Pretty simple, so let's get to it. Now upon entering the level we gained the achievement Well Connected for buying favours in the pre-game menu that can give you game advantages, such as extra rooms that will spawn or a path that will become slightly clearer to pass through. And the next achievement followed soon after when I stuck an arc mine to the back of a rat and let that kill somebody for rats and ashes. And of course we reloaded the save after this had just happened. So after working our way through the level we are given the non-lethal option for takedown by basically getting Arnold evicted from his house and arrested for being a bad man. So the first step is to sneak into the house to swap a document that Arnold keeps on his person. Now thankfully Arnold's old age has made him blind and oblivious, as we just walk into his room, strangle out his maid without him being any the wiser, and swap the documents. On the way out we then stumble across the next achievement, which is to interact with this statue of Delilah. After a short dialogue where she basically tells us to stay away from her, we grab the next achievement, Stone Cold Heart.
Well, she's a bit of a bitch.
We then grab the will for Talia before then contaminating the building with the rat plague so that Arnold could then be kicked out and arrested, which went swimmingly and he was finally neutralised. We then sprint to the start of the level to talk to Talia again, who then clues us in on the Delilah. It turns out that Delilah was a young baker's apprentice from Dunwall Tower. Delilah met with Arnold Timch and convinced him to make her the benefactor of his mother's will. After that, Delilah then disappeared completely and Arnold became haunted by her image. And after both Talia and Arnold attended a seance, they accidentally summoned Delilah, who was painting Dowd's name on a canvas. After that conversation we are gifted the next achievement, Missing Pieces, before moving on to the final mission of the DLC. When we return from the mission we are told that our base has been taken over by overseers and all of my assassin buddies besides Billy have been captured. So we need to repel the raid by freeing the captured assassins and neutralising the commander in charge, Overseer Hume. To be honest, this mission was fairly easy, just a lot of sneaking and knocking people unconscious. However, on the way we grabbed the last miscellaneous achievement for this DLC, Message from the Empress, by climbing this statue and assassinating somebody by jumping off it. Fairly easy stuff, before then reloading and getting to the final part. Once all the assassins have been freed, we meet up with Billy, who then tells us that she is responsible for the attack on Dowd's base, as she gave Delilah the location as she feared that Dowd was no longer capable of being in charge. Oh, how horrendously wrong she was. Delilah then finally reveals herself and curses you both before threatening us and again leaving. We are now given the choice to kill Billy or spare her for her betrayal. We of course spare her for the achievement, for now. But from that, the Knife of Dunwall was complete and we were given the achievements Whisper's Ways, Cleaner Hands and Redemptive Path for low chaos, no killing and nobody alerted. But of course we have to get a high chaos ending as well, so we start again, this time ripping and tearing our way through the missions. It didn't take long at all as the DLC missions are fairly short, so after a couple more hours of grinding we get no regrets. The final achievement for the Knife of Dunwall, and just like that we were down to our last 10 achievements and our last DLC pack. Now the Brigmore Witches begins with Dowd having a dream about Corvo attacking him, and we pick up the first achievement straight away, Parting Shot, by going through this dream sequence. We then finally find out Delilah's location. She is staying in the Brigmore Manor outside of the Dunwall quarantine zone, and to get there we need to go into Dunwall prison again to rescue Lizzie Stride, the leader of the Dead Eels, who has a boat who can take us there, and since we're breaking her out of prison, she'll owe us a favour. So we go through the prison from the beginning of the game once again to find Lizzie's cell. We eventually find her and she tells us that her second in command ratted her out to the police and seized her ship for himself, so if I want to use that ship, I'll need to take him out as well in the future. But we grab her, safely escort her back to the entrance, and just like that we're already one mission down and rewarded with the Breakout achievement. The next mission has us taking back control of Lizzie's ship, as well as needing to find an engine coil that was stolen from it, as without it, the ship won't run. So we start by finding the ship, and more importantly finding Edgar hiding in the basement, the person who overthrew Lizzie. Now he is so scared that Lizzie is coming back from him that he bunkers down in the bottom of the ship. But we find him of course and delicately take him out to give Lizzie full control of her ship back before going out to find the needed coil. Now this mission is a little drawn out for my liking. It has a lot of going from point A to point B and back again to try and get this coil, but eventually we find the man who has it, and by doing him a favour he will give us the coil back. The favour is to get his water running again, so after a short journey we eventually do just that, grab the coil and head back to the boat, where we are then attacked by witches. Now this threw me, as they immediately spawned in and noticed me, so when they were killed by the crew and we finished the level, we did get the Gangs of Dunwall achievement, but unfortunately we wasn't silent and apparently I had killed someone. But since I didn't have a clue who, that means I have to go back and do the entire mission again. So we did, and after a couple more hours I was back at that spot with the coil, and certain that I hadn't killed anyone, I placed the coil in and immediately teleported to the top deck and just let the crew fight and kill the witches, which thankfully worked. But just like that, we were now on our final mission and ready to take on Delilah herself, so we arrived at the Brigmore Manor and decided to immediately sneak our way into the house. Now honestly that wasn't even too hard at all, and on the way we even found some of the mission items that we needed, this bizarre lamp thingy that we needed to get access to Delilah. And along the way we also found out what Delilah's master plan was. She intends to use a painting of Emily to possess her and rule the Empire in her place. Bizarre, but sod it, why not? Eventually we're able to find the important room and get access to the void in which Delilah is performing her ritual by using the purple light to reveal access in a painting, I guess. We then hop through and we are greeted with the outsider for a final time, who says that we don't have to kill her to take her out, and by swapping the painting of Emily with a painting of the void and letting her complete the ritual, she will instead trap herself forever, and that sounds pretty good to me. So when we enter we sneak around Delilah, grab the second painting before sneaking back, swapping it with Emily and then letting her complete her ritual. When she does, she sucks herself into the painting, and with that we have completed the DLC, gaining the achievements Silence is Golden, Cleanest Hands and Changed Ways. But you know what's next? We need to go through once again for the high chaos ending and pick up a couple more miscellaneous achievements on the way. The first we got was Wall of Flesh, for using our powers to lift an enemy in the air and use him as a meat shield to deflect damage. And after battling through some more missions we also got Deal Maker for purchasing 8 favours throughout the DLC, before then finally continuing to the end again and introducing Mr. Sword to Mrs. Throat. So we finally get the high chaos ending as well. Now we've just got one last achievement to go, enough coin to disappear. And my god, I hate this achievement. So basically for this achievement we need to finish Brigmore Witches in low chaos with at least 10,000 coins on us. Now the problem is that Brigmore Witches barely has 10,000 coins in it. You start the DLC with 3,000 and that means you more or less have to find every single coin in every single level to grind enough to get this, whilst doing it completely in low chaos mode, which is insane. However, I found a trick though. If I import my Knife of Dunwall save over across to Brigmore Witches, I'll actually bring the coins across with me. So that means I once again had to complete Knife of Dunwall in low chaos whilst looting and saving as much money as I possibly could. Then I had to complete Brigmore Witches again in low chaos and hopefully find enough loot to get myself this achievement. So after hours of grinding both DLCs and being as thorough as I could be, we started the Brigmore Manor quest for the final time, and when we started we had 9,881 coins. So all we needed to do was take a couple extra hundred and take out Delilah and pray that it pops, and thankfully it did. Now, I didn't want to just go through everything that had happened again because that would be boring as hell to watch, but just so you know that this achievement is a real grind and I don't think it's really necessary, and it could have been something else, but honestly, who cares? Because with enough coins to disappear finally popping, we have done it. Every achievement in Dishonored was mined. 50 base achievements, 10 for the stupid fecking Dunwall City Trials, 10 for the Knife of Dunwall, and 10 for the Brigmore Witches. And honestly, even though I wanted to pull my hair out at several parts in this playthrough, it was totally worth it in the end. As having all of the easy and hard achievements in this game I never thought that I'd even like, has given me a kind of sense of pride. But that's it for the first Dishonored game. We are done. On the whole, as I said, I was totally wrong about this game, and I am so thankful that I get to understand and enjoy it now after 10 years. But now I've 100% completed it, and I can sit back on a job well done. Welcome to Dishonored 2. Now, last month we covered the first game and all of its painstaking DLC. After living my life thinking I hated this franchise, upon going through the achievement grind for it, I quickly became aware that this is in fact a fantastic game, and I had it all wrong. However, would the sequel fare as well as the first? Would I enjoy it as much, and does it improve on the amazing story and gameplay that I had grown to love from the one that came before it? Well, you all wanted this, so it's time to go through the sequel for the very first time and to see if it holds up to the original, as we grind all 50 achievements that this game has to offer. But without further ado, let's get straight into it. Welcome to the achievement grind. Now, Dishonored 2 is set 15 years after the ending of the last game, and now it starts with a grown-up Emily arriving at a ceremony in her mother's honour. After meeting Corvo, your event is quickly interrupted by clockwork soldiers, Duke Luca Abel of Sakonos, and a familiar face that for those that played the first game's DLC, Delilah Copperspoon, or should I say Delilah Caldwin, supposedly Jessamines' half-sister and true heir to the throne. Now at the start of the game it is told that there is a serial killer called the Crown Killer. They call this as they appear to be killing Emily's enemies, making many believe that Emily and Corvo are responsible. So after a brief interaction with Delilah, we are of course attacked by the Duke, and we get to choose our first distinction that separates this game from the one that came before it. We get to choose who to play as. We can either continue the story as Corvo, or start as Lady Emily. Both having completely separate powers and abilities, and of course both having completely different achievements tied to them. So, to start, we chose Lady Emily. Corvo is then turned into marble and we are hauled away to our bedroom. It is now time to escape and start our pacifist playthrough once again, so no being spotted and no killing. We started by working our way through the castle again to get our signet ring back off Mortimer Ramsey, one of the henchmen that dethroned me. So, after a moment we find him, give him a very nice and satisfying choking session, before taking our ring back, also getting our first achievement, Imperial Seal. Now this ring unlocks a specific bookcase that Sokolov invented for us, and inside are some of the tools that we will need to continue. So we grab Ramsey, throw him inside the room and lock it behind us. He wanted entry to this room so that he could steal all the gold there, so he got his wish and he's neutralised. But we also eat all of his food and there's no possible chance of him escaping. Bad luck, Mr. Ramsey, you absolute donkey. Now we're out into the streets of Dunwall, so after a couple of minutes of sneaking past guards and diving into the water, we find ourselves on a boat called the Dreadful Whale. and upon it is a blind and armless character who is apparently waiting for us. This is Megan Foster, and she arrived here to try to warn us about the Duke's coup. Instead, she offers us to be taken to Karnaca, where Delilah began her rise to power and where we can start in finding the Crown Killer, as well as ways to take back the crown from Delilah. Upon completing the first mission, we also get the achievements Ghostly for completing a mission without being spotted, and Alternative Approach for killing nobody in a mission. During the night, we are then visited by our favourite emo, Odin, the Outsider, who of course visits us to grant us amazing powers and to tell us to take Delilah out. We of course accept his gracious offer this time, and we get our powers as well as the heart, as this time it seems to be holding the spirit of our mother Jessamine. We then wake up normally and meet Megan to come up with a plan of attack. The first thing that we need to do is find and take out the Crown Killer, so that we can claim our innocence in the deaths. The Crown Killer is rumoured to be hiding out in a building called the Adamire Institute, so we need to travel there to find out for ourselves. So we immediately set out for Karnaca. Now, the first thing you notice, other than the achievement Jewel of the South popping, is that Karnaca is a totally different landscape and setting to that of Dunwall. Gone are the grey tones in every part, as Karnaca is full of life. The sun is out, there are people everywhere, and honestly, this to me is amazing. I thought Karnaca was immediately stunning, and it's a lovely change of pace from the dark and dingy Dunwall. I mean, come on, this is beautiful. And I also gotta mention the graphics. Not only are the graphics stunning, but they keep their amazing art style that they had in the first. They have just perfected it and brought it up to a very HD level, which is stunning to see. So far, after a single mission and being brought here, I'm very happy with the game's direction, but we will have to continue to see if the rest of the game still holds up. We begin exploring the world and getting further and further throughout it. Eventually, we meet this relaxing lady who says that she has a quest for us, to go and grab a body from the Overseer's outpost, and by doing this she will help us get to the Institute, and that's good enough for me. So we trek straight there, silently take out all of the guards throughout the building before bringing the body back and throwing it in this lovely hole. Upon chucking the corpse into the mud, we also get the achievement Morbid Theft. By doing this, she also says that one of her guys has turned off the power to the rails, which gives us a direct line to take and reach the carriage that will take us straight to the Institute. So we run, hop in the chair, and complete our first mission without killing anybody and without being spotted. A wonderful start. Now, at the start of the next mission, we reach the Institute, which is a former solarium for wealthy citizens of Karnaca, now turned into like a research centre for infectious diseases led by somebody called Dr. Hypatia. But we're here to find the Crown Killer, and to find out where they took Sokolov, who we need to find and rescue eventually. Now, the Institute is a disgusting building filled with guards, death and disease, so we need to tread carefully on our way to find out more information. However, it doesn't take us long to find Dr. Hypatia's office. Inside, we find a key to the recuperation area, as well as a note that gives us the opportunity to talk to somebody called Hamilton, who may have more information for us. Eventually, we find him, and he isn't doing well. He was locked up for looking at the Crown Killer, but we can go and find his notes for further information. It turns out he did in fact see the Crown Killer dragging a body, but everyone gaslit him into thinking that he was just mad and to stop spreading silly rumours. So after this, the next step is to talk to Dr. Hypatia herself in the recuperation area, which again we found fairly easily. But in talking to her, it's clear that she isn't all there. She's hearing voices, she doesn't really understand much or anything that she's doing, so whilst exploring we also find out that Sokolov has been taken prisoner into a mansion owned by Kirin Jindosh, the Duke's grand inventor and the genius behind the clockwork robots and other things that we'll get into later. And then also on the path we stumble across a horribly bent and abused person, who immediately tells us that Dr. Hypatia is actually the Crown Killer, and in a sort of Banner and Hulk situation where at times the Crown Killer will emerge from Hypatia, wreak havoc only for Hypatia to not remember a thing, as she's being poisoned to do so. This is also very quickly confirmed by Hypatia herself when she kills the person by needlessly throwing shit and disappearing. But now we have the non-lethal takedown option. What we need to do is craft an anti-serum that will remove the Crown Killer once and for all, by getting the base serum, mixing it with the blood of an infected corpse and then injecting that into her. So that's exactly what we do, and once completed the Crown Killer is no more and Hypatia is back with us, albeit confused and a little bit weak, and we get the achievement The Beast Within. We then tell Hypatia to go and meet Megan on the boat to lay low, the Crown Killer is no more, and with that we then meet Megan back on the boat ourselves to prepare to go after Sokolov. Back on the boat we also quickly speak to Hypatia again, who thanks us for saving her and rewards us with our next achievement, movement counter serum, before we then embark on our next quest. Now, in the intro, we have to make our way to the mansion, but honestly nothing really of note happens here, so I'm gonna skip it to when we actually finally make it to the front doors. Once through, and within seconds, we are shown exactly why Jindosh is the grand inventor, as by pulling several switches around his mansions, they will completely change the layout, revealing enemies, new doors, and honestly, to begin with, this was quite intimidating. As I knew to go through silently, this would take quite a bit of work and quite a bit of patience, but we pressed on. After pulling the lever, Jindosh detects us and insists that we talk to him, which we do. He susses within moments that we are there to take him out and to take Sokolov, so he basically says, "Come try me, bitch." So we do. Now again, I really need to speak on how highly amazing this mission and level is. The design is simply phenomenal, and this instantly became one of my favourite missions, as every path had obviously been thought of by developers, as no matter where you ended up in this twisting mansion, there was always a way back out, which really impressed the hell out of me. But slowly and patiently we explored the mansion, taking out soldiers until we eventually find the assessment chamber where Sokolov is being held captive. To rescue him, we must step into the prison cell and stand on these special pads that lower and raise walls until we have a direct path to him, all whilst avoiding the beefiest of the Clockwork soldiers. Thankfully, we do just that fairly easily, and at last we are reunited with the now much older and delicate Sokolov, who then warns us that Jindosh is building an army of soldiers and must be taken out. We agree, of course, and unlock the achievement Labyrinthine Mind, before then grabbing the sweet old bastard and carting him outside into the carriage to take back with us later on. But now it's time to take out Jindosh. Now, outside the prison cell, we find a note that told us about the electrical lobotomy chair that he was planning to use on Sokolov so that he couldn't use his genius mind anymore. Rather fitting, as now that's exactly what we're going to do to Jindosh, and take care of him non-lethally. After a little while, we make it to his room where he is protected by 2 Clockwork soldiers. We need to take them both out silently, as we can't get spotted, so we take him out from the shadows with bombs and bolts, before then finding the special chair and chucking Jindosh in to have all the wrinkles ironed out of his brain. Mission successful, it's time to go home. Back on the boat, Sokolov then reveals that whilst in the mansion, he learned the identity of one of Delilah's chief allies, Brianna Ashworth, an architect of the coup that took the throne away from Emily, and that she's been building a rather odd device for Delilah and that we need to take her out. So we set off. Now this mission starts as the same as the others, fight through the city until we reach the building where Brianna lives. Once there, we sneak our way inside to a place filled to the brim with witches. So we take some out and avoid others until we reach the strange contraption that Brianna is creating, called the Auriculum. And through a bit more exploring, we find a pile of lenses and a note that says that on a previous experiment it went horribly wrong and nearly wiped Brianna of her powers, and that the lenses should not be used in the future, as if they are, Brianna may permanently lose her powers and connection to Delilah, which sounds bloody good to us. So we swipe the lenses, plant them in the machine and turn it on, to which Brianna is immediately summoned and, as expected, loses her powers and connection to Delilah. Also, weirdly enough, by doing this, every single witch in the level is knocked unconscious, which really works out for us, but I don't know why. So like in the Dishonored DLC, we talk to a statue of Delilah and we brag about how great we are and what we have done, and then Delilah scolds me for being a meddling kid without a dumb dog. And that's the mission done. Honestly, I really did enjoy this mission, but it was notable for me as the easiest of the bunch. As my first time playing it with no knowledge, we finished it in about 40 minutes. Oh well. Back to the boat. Next, we must travel to the Dust District to find a manor belonging to Aramis Stilton, as this manor contains more of Delilah's secrets that we need in order to figure out a way to beat her. Upon arriving, Megan tells us that we need to get past a door that was designed by Jindosh, and that in the Dust Districts there are 2 factions fighting for power, and if we kill one of the leaders and bring their body to the other, they can tell us the code. Or we could just try solving the riddle for ourselves. Now, through looking at my friend's achievements in the Dishonored tab on Steam, I already knew that there was an achievement for unlocking the door without a code from the leader. So, we headed straight there and tried to beat the riddle. Now, this was a complex riddle, I can't lie, and it took me about 40 minutes and an envelope full of doodles to figure out, but eventually the lock pops, and so does the achievement Eureka, as we set off into the next mission. Upon entering the house, we lose the ability to use any of our powers, which doesn't seem too bad at first since there appears to be nobody around. We explore and eventually find find Aramis Stilton playing the piano, but he has clearly lost his mind. The Outsider then appears and gives us something called the Timepiece to help with our quest, a special artifact that upon using can transport us back in time. With this we need to trek through the mansion once again, constantly swapping timelines in order to reach a room in which we know that Duke Luca and some of his friends are visiting, and also by picking up the timepiece we get our next achievement, a 1918-49. And again, I really need to sing Dishonored 2's praises here, as this mission is simply incredible and a well needed change of pace. I actually researched that they had to build an entire new engine, the Void engine, to be able to run this segment cleanly, which really proves that a lot of love went into this game, and it shows as the mission is the highlight of the game, and the one that people remember the most, that I would say anyway. And on our way we also unlocked our next achievement, Dilapidation, by opening up a new path by destroying some support beams in the past to then use them as a path in the present. But anyways, back to the mission properly. To get the code to the door of the study, we need to find Aramis in the past to either kill him for the code or by snooping in his bizarrely open diary. We choose the latter of the two, and once we learn the code we carefully punch it in, avoiding all the nearby guards and entering. Upon walking into the room it flickers between past and present before being greeted with the past versions of all the characters that we have seen so far. And through the cinematic it says that Brianna and the Duke began to hear Delilah's voice, and they set up this meeting to perform a ritual to bring Delilah back from the void that we cast her in at the end of the Brigmore Witches. The ritual is performed successfully and we find out that Delilah has stored her soul in a bone statue that the Duke has stored in his vault, and to kill her we must find and retrieve the soul to give it back to her, then making her mortal again. We then exit the level and prepare for the next mission. The next mission has us of course taking on the Duke. We are told at the start of the level that the Duke actually has a body double that also walks around the house in order to make assassinating him much harder, but we can use this body double to our advantage, as we're told that we'll be able to tell who the body double is as he smokes and the actual Duke does not. So once again we set off and slowly make our way throughout the level until we reach the palace. Once there we casually sneak our way through all of its levels looking for the body double, who I'm actually just going to start calling Luca 2 for simplicity. Eventually we find one of the Lucas in his chamber, so we wait for him to see if he starts smoking, which he actually does. So we talk to him. So then we accuse Luca 2 of being the body double and tell him that we are here to end Luca's life. So, as an offer, we say that if we were to oppose Luca 1, would Luca 2 be able to successfully convince people he is in fact Luca 1 and rule far better than his predecessor? He says that he would absolutely love for that to happen, but to make it so we need to bring him the real Luca so that he can take a medallion off of him, which Luca 1 uses to prove that he is the real deal. Simply swap it out and have him arrested. Also, something that I realised during this cutscene is the Duke is voiced by Vincent D'Onofrio, aka Kingpin from Daredevil, and listening to this entire conversation I couldn't hear anything else other than Kingpin, which I thought was hilarious.
And guard officers will ask to see the medallion as proof. Luca never puts it aside.
We find the real Duke and quickly perform a rather violent Heimlich maneuver before carting his ass back to bed. We dump him on the bed, grab our next achievement down with the Duke, and have him neutralised. Now it's time to grab the vault key and head there to steal Delilah's soul to return it to the sender. We find the bone statue, take it straight back, sealing it inside the heart that the Outsider gave us, but at a cost of no longer being able to hear our mother. Afterwards we picked up the Spirit Thief achievement before heading back to Megan for the final mission. Back on the boat before we head out for our final mission, we talk to Megan one more time, who this time has a confession for us. Megan is in fact Billy Lake, the assassin that helped Dowd kill Emily's mother back in the first game. So we of course take out our rage before quickly reloading the save and allowing him to live, instead gaining us the achievement years ago another time. Now it's time to return to Dunwall Tower and take care of Delilah once and for all. Upon arriving, everyone for the most part has been completely slaughtered, including the security and overseers. The entire complex is now overflowing with witches, so we slowly head towards the castle for the final confrontation. On the way we also find the grave of our mother and pay respect one more time, gaining the achievement Gazebo. But enough dilly-dallying, it's time to end this. We enter the mansion, sneak our way through the complex, avoiding witches and clockwork robots in order to turn the power back onto the lift. However, on the way we also find a chapel. We are told that we can create a corrupted room that once placed with the rest will sabotage Delilah's secret project. So we trek on and find the room where Delilah is once again working on a painting. We walk up, give her soul back before she escapes into the said painting and beckons us to follow her. But we don't try just yet. First we walk over to the throne and place the extra corrupted rune, before then jumping through the artwork. Once there we are teleported to a bizarre location called the World As It Should Be, which is what Delilah wants to create as Empress. After taking care of a couple of sneaky clones which really threw me off the first couple attempts, Delilah then finally comes down to play. We give her a healthy dose of not breathing before carting her back through the painting, placing her upon the throne and trapping her in a fake world in which she gets everything that she wants, clueless on the fact that it's fake. We then free Corvo from the marble, and that's Dishonored 2. We gain the Empress for completing the game with Emily, the greatest gift for freeing Corvo, as well as Shadow, Clean Hands, and In Good Conscience for completing the game without getting spotted, without getting killed, and in low chaos. However, now it's time to go through the entire game again, this time as Corvo, to get the high chaos Corvo ending, as well as collecting most of the achievements that we missed on our Emily playthrough. So, let's go from the top. We start the game again, but this time of course we choose Corvo as our main character. Now I'm not going to go through the entire story again in detail, just going to briefly describe the settings as we go for the achievements. So the first one we cross off the list is saving this journalist from a guard just outside of the castle, unlocking freedom of speech. Then continuing our path of murder, we quickly pick up Rogue for killing 20 enemies unaware, as well as break into this house to steal the contents of this safe. Now this is important, but not until much later on. In the next mission, the first achievement we tackled and rather easily got was Stay of Execution for saving this man from being pushed into a wall of light. Now something that I haven't mentioned yet is that in every mission there is a black market shop. You go here and buy equipment as well as unlock abilities and upgrades and that sort of thing. But by breaking into one of the shops we gained the next achievement, Black Market Burglar. The next we tackled was Sliding Marksman for headshotting a character while sliding, which did take a couple of attempts as it is trickier than you may think but not by much, so we eventually got it. Next we got Heartbeat Reaper for killing 6 enemies in less than 1.5 seconds, and then wrapping up this mission with Acrobat for drop assassinating 10 enemies. That's it for this mission, and since we're not done yet, in the next we first tackle is Fearless Fall by climbing to the very top of the tower and drop assassinating one of the guards beneath. After that we kill Lady Hypatia, and then soon followed after that we then kill Lady Hypatia, and then crack on to the next level, which we start in getting Heart Whispers for using the heart to listen to the secrets of 40 different people. We then stormed into Jindosh's house and assassinated him without moving a mechanism and without him knowing we were there at all, for silence. And literally 2 minutes later we unlocked Clockwork Collector for destroying 3 clockwork robots and taking the plaque from the rubble. In the next mission, the first achievement that we gained was Circle of Life for chaining a single possession between a human, a hound, a rat, a fish and a bloodfly. Definitely a trickier one as you have to find the perfect spot with all of the creatures close by. Then once we entered the mansion and tore everything to shreds, we then used the heart to talk to the Sisters of the Auricular Order for the achievement Auricular Echoes. We then took care of Brianna and moved on to the Dust District again. Once there we craft our 10th Bone Charm for the Occult Carver achievement, before we then begin to tackle 2 achievements for killing one of the leaders and bringing his body to the other. So we start by killing the character Paolo, who is a warlock and when killed turns into a pile of rats. However, kill him 3 times and you'll actually kill him and unlock the achievement Place of 3 Deaths. We then deliver his cold, lifeless body to the Vice Overseer for Faithful to the Abbey, before reloading the save and this time delivering the Vice Overseer to Paolo for Howlers Till the End. Time to move on to cracking the slab now, where we quickly pick up under the table for stealing a key without knocking out any of the guards. Then travelling further through the level we got Flooded Basement for finding a rune in a, well, you guessed it, flooded basement that we had to drain the water to reach. During the next mission the achievements just kept on popping. We got well funded for finding and taking 60% of all the loot in the game, which was actually a lot easier than it sounded. The next we tackled was tricky and took me a lot of reloading saves to be able to complete, Fatal Redirect. Now this one had us kill an enemy with his own bullet, and even though I already done this in the first game multiple times, I kept failing this time as when I possessed a character I either ran into the bullet causing it to fire and not kill me, or I took too long to get in front of it before it fired and just missed me. But you know me folks, I don't give up. So eventually we were successful and we got it. At the start of the last mission again, for the first achievement we got is going back to the safe in the first mission and robbing it again for the second time. See? I told you it was important. We then got Art Collector for surprisingly collecting all of the paintings in the game. And speaking of collectibles, the next we got was Souvenirs for collecting all of the unique items that you can see stored in the display case in your room. But now it's time to finish the game once again and to collect the Royal Protector for finishing the game as Corvo, and Empire in Chaos for completing it in High Chaos. But we're not done. It's time to go through the entire game again, this time rejecting powers from the outsider to gain Flesh and Steel. which honestly wasn't difficult at all and only took us an extra couple of hours of grinding to get through. So we were 47 out of 50 achievements completed and only had a couple more to clear. The first we missed was one that we needed to complete as Emily, which is to link two characters together using domino before one kills the other. So we reloaded an old save and got this fairly easily by taking a guard hostage and letting his friend just slice away. Karma if I've ever seen it. So, only two left. The next two did require another playthrough though, but honestly I was speeding my way through this game so much I didn't even expect it to take long. And one of them didn't. The next achievement we got was Royal Spy Master for collecting all of the journals and audiographs by Billy and Sokolov on the whale. Not really a difficult one, but I just wasn't really paying attention I guess, and I just missed it all 3 times. Now we're on to the final achievement, and this one admittedly was a giant pain in the ass. Songs of Sekonos. This achievement had you find a musical duo across the missions 3 times and fully listen to the songs that they play. Now honestly, I nearly gave up on this achievement as I thought it was bugged, as I went through the game an extra 3 times fully trying to get this, and it just did not pop. I would find the duo, listen to their songs in its entirety, to the point that if I bumped into them halfway through, I would wait until they finish, play the entire song again, then listen to it all just to be safe. And the second encounter was also stupid as hell, as one in the Dust District had you sneak into Paolo's complex and find a place to hide without disturbing them, but close enough so that you can actually listen to their songs. So even if you listen to all the songs all the way, you might not have been close enough for the tally to register, which means you carry on not knowing that you've already failed. So 3 times I went to the last duo, listened to their shitty music. I'm only joking about the shitty part, the music's actually fairly decent to listen to, I'm just salty. But then I decided I'm going to give it one more try. On this try, I got to each part that I needed to beat and waited there with my controller down for 20 minutes each, which is more than enough. I did this with all 3 duos and thankfully it decided to pop. No idea what I did different other than wait for 86 years, but who cares. Now I can murder them in cold blood and finally chalk Dishonored 2 as fully done. The grind is over. And I know that this isn't going to be the popular opinion, but I think Dishonored 2 is better than the first. And please hear me out. Now, I know that Dishonored was a genre-defining game that deserves all of the praise that it gets, but to me Dishonored 2 was the same experience, just more fleshed out and honestly perfected. The world design is phenomenal and all of the locations were beautiful and well thought out. The combat system has been improved brilliantly, as one of my complaints about Dishonored 1 was the lack of stealth tools. You only had sleep darts and knocking people out, and you couldn't even really use your powers. Whereas in this you have several new stealth tools and takedowns, as well as the ability to use your powers to help plan your next moves and attacks, which I thought was fantastic. The characters were fine and the story was fine as well. It kept me entertained, and to be honest, that's all I need from a story. I can be quite easy to please, and I know that. Now, don't get me wrong, there were some things that I didn't like. A couple of missions felt a bit unnecessary and just there to really fill the content, and sometimes the AI of the enemies was a little bit temperamental, and sometimes I got caught in places I really shouldn't have. But on the whole, I think this game is a massive improvement on Dishonored 1 for the most part. And the only thing that I think stunted people from properly giving it a decent shot was its rather buggy launch, which unfortunately stopped a lot of its momentum. If you folks like Dishonored 1 and didn't give 2 a chance, I'm begging you to revisit it. I really feel like Dishonored 2 deserves a second chance for some. So, that's done. Let's move on to the stats. Dishonored 2 took roughly 33 hours to complete and get all 50 achievements. I'm going to give this game an 8.5 out of 10 and say that the achievements were a decent 4 out of 10, as they involved multiple playthroughs, a couple of slightly tricky achievements, and doing the stupid song one, which I am also going to say that for me, it was the hardest achievement, although of course it may be different for you. But these achievements were far easier than Dishonored 1, DLC aside. However, Dishonored Death of the Outsider, I wonder how those achievements fare. Welcome to Dishonored Death of the Emo Odin. Oh wait, no. Outsider. Yeah, Death of the Outsider. We are here at the finale already. What a journey Dishonored has been, but we are finally at the third and final game in the trilogy. With 2 phenomenal games that came before it, how will Death of the Outsider fare? Will it end the series on a high, or will it ruin everything and stamp on its twitching corpse? Well, there's only one way to find out, and that's by grinding all 30 achievements that this game has to offer. So, without further ado, and for the final time for a Dishonored game, welcome to the achievement grind. So this game takes place a couple of months after the end of Dishonored 2. In Death of the Outsider, you play as none other than Billy Lake herself. It starts with Billy returning to Kanaka to find and reunite with Dowd after not seeing him for 15 years. We start on her last and final lead to Dowd. Apparently he's in a strange boxing club in the Albarca Baths. So we dock the Dreadful Whale and head straight there. Well, when I say head straight there, firstly we are weirdly given the power to talk to rats. Listening to the rats, they can give you clues as to the best way to tackle missions, what the characters are thinking, and even where the characters can be. But for the most part, they do talk utter nonsense. I know this because when I talked to them 5 times in a row, the first achievement popped, aptly named Rat Whisperer. But we decide to move on very quickly, we get into the car and head down to the club. Now for both of the previous games, the first playthrough I did was a silent pacifist, no one alerted and nobody killed. Now for Death of the Outsider, we're only going to be after doing one of these, silently, because there actually isn't an achievement tied to sparing everyone in your playthrough. I only have to do that for a single mission. Now not to dog on the game immediately, but this did disappoint me a little bit. My favourite part about Dishonored was the 2 clear paths that you could take in the game, with of course a muddle of the 2 in the middle if you wanted. You could either be silent and merciful and have to use smart movement and discover the best way to take out targets, or just cut your way through in a path of chaos and destruction. But I didn't have that option for the most part here, as the chaos system has been completely removed and I miss it. But I digress. Let's carry on. We first have to reach the bath, so we start by silently taking down the guards one by one. But eventually we arrive outside of the boxing club and just waltz right in. When we enter, one of the first things that we immediately see is a massive grate in the floor. Inside said grate is Dowd, tied to a chair that strips him of his powers and turns him into a feeble old bastard. Now this club is ran by a void worshipping cult called the Eyeless, and we will learn a little bit more about them later on. For now, we set to free Dowd. So we sneak our way upstairs, steal absolutely everything we can get our hands on, knock the leader of the club unconscious and steal her key. With this we can now head back downstairs and turn off the suppression device, giving Dowd his powers back. When we do that, boy are we in for a treat. The entire club goes apeshit, and quite rightly so, since Dowd gets his powers back, he just goes full John Wick and kills everyone in the building within a matter of seconds. But now he is safe and we have a wonderful reunion. Well, when I say wonderful reunion, he waits all of 30 seconds before being like, hey, let's kill the outsider. He then travels back to the Dreadful Whale to talk to us later, so we start to head there ourselves. We also unlock the achievement Uncaged for freeing Dowd. When we then go to leave, the place is stormed by the local police, but they are fairly easy to avoid. In fact, all of the enemies are, and within a couple of minutes we are already back at the whale, first mission over, and we gave the achievement Agent of Mercy for not killing anybody in a single mission. The next morning we are visited by the outsider himself. We ask what he wants before he then just forces his mark on Billy, taking her arm and her eye in the process before disappearing into the darkness. So it's time to talk to Dowd, I guess. He instantly knows what the outsider did to us and says that his connection to the void is fading, so we need to act fast to take care of this little problem. Dowd then reveals he actually knows how to kill the outsider. The Eyeless cult have a relic, the knife that made the outsider thousands of years ago. We need to find the leader of the cult and find out where that knife is hidden. So to do so, we need to go to a place called the Red Camellia, which is where low-ranking Eyeless members get tattoos to kind of rise them up the ranks. So that's where I need to head to next. Arriving at the next level, we also now, of course, have access to our new powers. We have a new unique version of Blink called Displace that lets us place like a clone that we can then teleport to. It's not too bad, but it does feel a little bit slower than either of the powers that came before it that mimicked Blink. We then also have Foresight, which allows us to scout a location in the spirit realm whilst time stands still, which is really good for scouting ahead. And then the last we have is Semblance, which allows us to take the face of a character we knock unconscious and walk around as them, which is a lot of fun to use. One of the first things we do though is use Displace. I cast my hologram inside of another human, and then when I teleport to it, the person erupts into a mist of blood and guts. Surprising for sure, however, we do get another achievement called Occupational Hazard. But back to the mission. First we of course explore. We steal stuff, find secrets and whatnot, you know, nothing too crazy. Now this felt very odd, as we were free to kill anybody we wanted to. We just can't get spotted. So being able to chuck civilians in a furnace to burn them into a fine powder was fun, but it did feel strange. As we carry on exploring though, we then find a section where as we walk into it, a man screams that the guards need to close a trapdoor, as he doesn't want to fall through it during a speech and die. And I remember seeing an achievement for killing a target by doing just that, so I knew that we could get a nice kill here as well as another beautiful achievement. So what I decided to do was quickly pull the lever below him to send him hurling 2 foot to his death for the achievement, then reload and kill him from afar so that we don't get spotted. And that's exactly what we do, plummeting Ivan Jacoby a couple of inches to his death, gaining the achievement Public Shaming. We then reload the save and kill him from afar, this time just setting the punk on fire. We now went for a miscellaneous achievement which had us use a hook mine, a tool which sort of pulls an enemy into it and knocks them unconscious. It is a great tool to use though, and this achievement has us launching an enemy 40 meters by using one. And at first this confused me because I wasn't too sure how to launch somebody using a tool that sucks them in. However, I soon saw this massive drop and wondered if 40 meters would also count down if it was a fall. So we find the nearest human close by, this unfortunate fisherman fellow. We take away his ability to breathe before then placing a mine on the side of the drop and chucking him off. This did not work at first. The first time is because I missed entirely, but after he would proceed to just get sucked to the mine, but then not drop to his death, and I was really confused on how to proceed. So I just hit him, and then he fell and hit the floor. The achievement hook then popped, and I didn't understand it myself, but sod it, it's done, and that is another achievement down. Shortly afterwards we then find the Red Camellia. We dispatch the hard-working employee before we soon find ourselves in front of a tattoo machine. We then sit down and give myself the freshest of new inks. But now we actually look like an eyeless, and with this we can now enter an exclusive bar for them. And we also find a note saying that 2 of the people in this district have keys that I will need to proceed, so knowing that I need to grab them, I rush back to Ivan, take the key off his crispy corpse before we then track down Sean Young, a local singer. To get to him we need to enter the eyeless bar and then kind of connect into his house through there. But first, before we do that, we go for a couple more miscellaneous achievements. The first has us use semblance to imitate a high-ranking guard and then have a lower-ranking guard salute us in their form. This one, again, fairly easy, and we unlock salute without any issues. And the one after that, I had to make 3 people sick at the same time by throwing one of these plague tonics at the floor. Again, a fairly easy one. When we got to the door of the bar, the guard spots my fancy fresh ink and lets me in. We then find a bottle lying on the counter, we take it, chuck it on the floor, and 3 people are immediately sick, unlocking the side effects achievement. We then work our way upstairs, take out the guard protecting the entrance to Sean Young's home, and then invite ourselves in. We find out that his key is inside a safe that is voice activated, so being the genius that I am, we quickly find Sean, use semblance on him so that we can take his form and go and sing into the safe's microphone. Now that doesn't work, but it does give us a new wonderful achievement, Nightingale, for trying. It turns out what we actually have to do is go to the lower levels and steal a song recording to then play through the microphone to open the door. Now we have both keys to the safe in the vault where the knife must be, and we also gain the achievement 2 turns for obtaining said keys. So with the keys acquired and the mission well done, we sprint to the exit and head back to the Dreadful Whale to start the next chapter. Back on the boat we then talk to Dowd again, who tells us that it's time to go for the knife and find a way into the void. But for that we actually need to break into the bank to get to the vault. There are a couple of ways in. We can take the roof, the trash disposal and the sewers. But with the bank having incredibly high security, we need to make sure that we enter silently. Dowd then tells us that there's actually a ventilation system on the roof that if we fill out with a knockout gas will send every single guard in the building to the land of Nod. So the roof is the way that I want to go. So once again we head out to the district. Now it's the same exact location as the one before, so I was already very familiar with the layout. The first thing that I do is go and visit the black market for some supplies, but once I'm there I actually realise they sell the tonic I need, and I don't even need to go bother finding the pharmacy and going down that route. So I just buy it immediately and get ready to approach the bank. Once there I realise how well guarded this place is. Dogs and guards are at every angle, so it does take us a couple of moments to go through and a couple of failed attempts. Whilst doing so, we also find the body of the bank's custodian on the edge of a cliff. He went down the cliffside looking for a pricey Rolex and died trying to get it. So we find him, take the custodian's key, as well as the watch that he was down there to get, and then head up to the roof. We knock out a couple of unaware guards on the roof before finding the vent system and pouring all of the sleep juice inside. And it works perfectly. When we enter, every single guard is knocked out completely. We just have to be careful in not waking any of them up, and the easy way to do that is just by shooting them in the head with a pen, which also unlocks us our next achievement, Mightier Than the Sword. We slowly work our way through the bank, avoiding arc pylons and clockwork soldiers before we are then at the Great Vault. Now we just need to get it moving, so I head to the top and see that it has 4 breaks that if I removed would send it crashing down and ripe for the taking. So we spend a little bit more time exploring to make sure we get everything, also finding a key to the vault behind a hidden wall, as well as some documents that suggest that the Eyeless have actually found a way into the void and we need to press forward to find out how to do it ourselves. We also on our way find a big shiny red lever, so since I'm a magpie, I take that as well and head back on top of the vault. We pry open the 4 bricks which sends the vault crashing down and through the floor into the sewer below, also unlocking the achievement Party Crasher. So we got them all opened and helped ourselves to all of the delicious loot within, also gaining another achievement, Obsessive Safecracker. Once we have stolen all that there is to steal, we then use the 2 keys on the final safe door and open it to then find the knife that we wanted, the blade that was used to cut the outsider's throat and turn him into the god that he is today. We pick it up and immediately transport to the void where the outsider appears and does the cliche, you know, we're not so different you and I speech.
We're not so different, you and I.
He says that he knows what I plan to do, but there may be another choice, before then telling us that Dowd has died. He then disappears and the game generously gifts us another achievement, Twin Bladed Knife. But now it's time to head back to the boat to find out what the hell happened to Dowd. Now honestly, this just annoyed the hell out of me, I can't lie. Dowd is one of my favourite characters in the series. He's one of the only characters with a character arc and I felt truly invested in him. Then there's the big reunion with him and Billy and then he just dies like that, off screen, and with no moment between him and Billy. Now we do meet him again in the future, but God, this annoyed me. And it was such a cheap move that could have been done so much better. Like, that's like killing Corvo off screen. It just seemed a little bit lazy to me and there was a million better ways to do it in my opinion. But the game's the game and now Dowd is officially dead. Billy then burns down her boat and cremates Dowd's body within it. And we only know that through the art scenes between missions. And again, this really annoyed me. But we carry on, I guess. For the next mission, we have to steal important documents that this character stole. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the name because if I can't pronounce Mjolnir properly, then there's just no chance for this. But the documents we're trying to find are how to actually enter the void, so of course we need them. We set off now to the location that's the same as the one in Dishonored 2, where we had to take care of Brienne. So we silently kill all of the guards blocking the entrance and make our way inside. Now, honestly, this mission was easy and there wasn't actually anything really to talk about. We went from floor to floor, killing or knocking out the guards until we took out the leader of the cult, called Sister Lena Rosewin, who had the document strapped to her belt. It's a sort of slide to a projector, so we take it off her twitching lifeless body and unlock the next achievement, Gnosis? God, I wish I knew how to pronounce shit. Anyway, once we find a projector, we add the slide and it tells us of a hidden portal deep in the mountains just outside of Kanaka, in an old quarry, and that's where I need to go to travel to the void. So, just like that, and honestly within like 15 minutes we had the location sorted. We just needed to flee the level and carry on. And just like that, we're at the final mission in the game. Yep, so soon. We started the level with yet another visit from the outsider saying what you're about to do will change the world, but again reminds us that there is another way. And it's my choice, but I don't have to kill him, as I can go inside and try and find his name. But he also says that in here I will find another relic, a relic of the god that came before him, before he then disappears again. Now the start of the level is more of the same, bouncing from place to place, trying not to disturb anyone as we make our way deeper into the complex. But this time instead of the eyeless or the guards, this place actually has the original cult that turned the outsider into what he is, just roaming about. Again, nothing to sing or scream about here, just more of the same. Within moments we have infiltrated the building and now find ourselves inside the quarry, where we are then greeted with a huge rock golem called an Envisioned. However, back to more of the same. We kill cultists without being seen and work our way slowly through the level until we reach the relic that the outsider told us about. It turns out to be the eye of the dead god. Billy can actually feel it watching her, so when she reaches out to touch it, she is then teleported straight into the void and we get our next achievement, Deadeye. Now, this is where the Envisioned patrol, and they are not to be messed with. They have incredible vision, they have the ability to blink, and their hits pack a mean punch. So when one immediately spotted me, I decided to actually just try and kill one before reloading and carrying on silently. Now, many more had spawned whilst I was fighting, but eventually we had it on its knees, moments from death. We walked up and stuck our sword straight into its rocky brain and ripped it apart. Not only was it a pretty decent kill animation, but it also gives us our next achievement, Harder Than Stone. We then continue through the level avoiding these rock things, and not before long we find ourselves in a room. Now this room belongs to somebody that was studying the outsider and the mark that he leaves behind. We actually come to realise that the mark is actually the outsider's real name, but only those in the spirit world can actually speak it. I'm not sure if you can tell where this is going, but we soon find out that the outsider's real name is actually Colin. I'm obviously kidding, we don't ever find out, and honestly I prefer it that way. Knowing the outsider's name kind of takes away from his mystery, so I kind of like him being nameless. Then mere moments later we find a portal that takes us to the ritual hold, where the outsider is trapped. We then find the outsider cast in marble, with Dowd once again being there as well, and as well as all the other people who died bearing the mark of the outsider, and it's a lot more than I thought. We talk to Dowd and he tells us to finish the job, but Billy says that there might be another way. If Dowd speaks his name instead, that will free him, and since there is 2 achievements tied to this ending, we decide to do both. Firstly, we stab him in his stupid heart. He turns to normal and falls into my arms, dying instantly. With that, our mission is complete and the outsider is dead. We unlock the achievements Deicide and Shadow. And that's it for the game. Billy talks about how the world will change and we don't know what will happen next, but now we very quickly reload the save and this time have Dowd speak the outsider's name to him. He walks up, whispers the name before disappearing for the final time. At that moment, the outsider emerges from the marble and the outsider thanks Billy for his freedom before she then returns him to Kanaka to start a new life. But by doing that, we unlock final release. Now, we're only 10 achievements left to get, and we thankfully can get most of them in the next playthrough whilst going for an achievement to complete the game again in New Game Plus. Something else that we need to take care of in this playthrough as well is to collect all of the paintings throughout the levels as well as to complete every contract in every level. Now, I haven't mentioned them yet, but each level has a list of mercenary contracts that Billy can choose to complete for a reward, so we need to complete every single one for an achievement as well, so we got straight to it. This time we had no need for silence, we sliced our way through the levels gaining achievement after achievement. The first we go for is back at Sean Young's house. Earlier when I said we grabbed a recording of a song to play through the microphone to unlock the safe, there's actually an achievement for grabbing it without turning off the floor security. Honestly, fairly easy to do as you just need to blink on top of the glass case, smash it and grab it for the achievement, Golden Locks. And that's the only one we needed for this level, so we finished the contracts, grabbed the paintings and headed out. The next achievement we needed was in the next level. This one had us break into the vault, steal everything and exit without disabling an alarm, triggering one or killing any of the unconscious security. However, on the way to do this and after completing the contracts, we also come across the last painting and get the achievement Art Aficionado. This threw me, as I really hadn't found that many paintings, so out of 5 missions, only 3 of them had paintings in them, another really easy collectible grind. But we slowly work our way through the level again, this time unlocking the safe with a vault key inside the office where we found it. Instead of crashing it through the floor again, I didn't want to wake anybody up. We open it up, steal everything inside and make a hasty retreat. Upon exiting the bank, we then gain the achievement The Perfect Crime, and we're slowly getting to the end. In the next level, before we head inside the complex, I decided to try and grab another achievement. When we picked up the new sword in the last level, we actually unlocked a new ability called Void Strike, in which if we charge our attack, whoever we hit will be thrust into the air, and this achievement has us killing somebody with the fall damage of the strike. So this weird bridge staircase at the start seemed like a great location. It took a little while to do as you don't really get to control which way the body is thrown, but thankfully we got it in a couple of minutes after sending this overseer crashing down the stairs, unlocking Final Nudge. In this mission we can also tick off another couple of achievements though as well. The next we got was for completing all of the contracts. Now I will say that the contracts were a little bit tricky sometimes, however the final contract I really did struggle, not because it was difficult but because I was a moron. Now this contract tasked us with killing every single overseer and cult member in the building, and after about 30 minutes of searching I could not find the last person I needed to save my life. The irony. Until I remembered something. Earlier in the mission I used a bottle of chloroform to hilariously knock out some of the cult members upstairs.
Dare you enter this place?
What the fuck was that? Now these folks were technically knocked out and not killed, so I went back and killed them all. And then finally mercenary work popped soon after. We also got voices for breaking 4 of these N things, and once again listening to the voices of the Oraculum, which again is another thing I might have mispronounced in the last vid. I am sorry, I'm trying my best, but my brain is wrinkle free. But with that we have no more to get on this playthrough other than finishing it for a New Game Plus. So we raced our way to the end, stabbed the outsider in his stupid heart once again, and gained the achievement Good Old Times. Now we only had 3 left. Now the reason why I couldn't get these 3 in New Game Plus is that the New Game Plus actually gives you all of Corvo's ability and removes the unique ones that Billy had, and for these last 3 I needed to use Displace and Semblance. So I booted up an old save and got to work and getting the last 3. The first was easy as hell. We used Foresight to place a marker inside somebody, then we back out of Foresight and Displace to them blowing them up. Basically it's the exact same parameters as Occupational Hazard but with an extra step. So we did this for clever planning. The next had us attend an auction to win a bottle of the knockout juice that we needed for the bank heist, so instead of buying off the black market I took somebody's face with Semblance, sat down and just bid on the bottle until I won it, gaining the achievement Big Time same player. And finally, we're on the Witch's mission again. This time, instead of killing the person with the location of the void, we need to use semblance on another leader in the building and have a meeting with her. Again, very, very easy to do, and it took no more than 5 minutes. We stole his face, talked to the woman, and then the final achievement popped, the face of the Abbey. And that's it. All 30 out of 30 achievements have been got, and our job here within the entire Dishonored franchise is done. The grind is over. Now, Death of the Outsider, I have mixed feelings on this game, I really do. I think my issues stem from the lack of options really in dealing with each level. The best part about Dishonored 1 and 2 was coming up with a plan of action to tackle each level, whereas this game I didn't feel the need to do so. There was no reward or alteration depending on what path you chose, and that did take away a lot of my enjoyment, especially during the semi-stealth playthrough, as there was no reward for playing smart and careful. I also found the game quite buggy compared to the other ones, and often guards would get stuck in animations, or for example in this bizarre case, the ragdoll effects were turned up to 10 and bodies flew all over the place. What? And I gotta say, this game just feels like DLC. I don't know why the studio decided to give it its own release, as by doing this I have to judge this as a standalone game, and because of that it suffers greatly. The missions are short and for the most part the same throughout the entire game. They reused a lot of assets from Dishonored 2 which adds to the feeling that it's DLC, and it made it seem a little bit lazy. And honestly, if this was actually DLC for Dishonored 2, I would be able to forgive a lot of this, because the reason why this game suffers is, as I said, I have to compare it to the gems that came before it. And honestly, I was disappointed, and it wasn't the finale to the series that I was hoping it would be. Now, don't get me wrong, it was fine. Well worth a playthrough, and there are some things that I did like that they added, like the contracts, which were a lot of fun, as well as the new powers and the new tools and whatnot. However, it didn't stop me from feeling like this game was missing a lot of content, and a lot of things that I loved about the other games. However, let's get to the stats. This game, it only took us 9 hours. Yep, 9. To get all 30 achievements in the game. I'm sorry to say that I'm going to be giving this game a 5 out of 10, as it's well worth going through, but I have zero reason to ever return to it, and it is pretty average as a game gets, which I didn't really want to be the case. And as far as difficulty for achievements, I would say that this game is a 2 at most. Needing to play through it twice as well as collectibles and contracts does knock this up by 1 point, but honestly, they were mostly a piece of piss to get. The hardest achievement for me was probably Perfect Crime, as that was the only time in which I had to use my brain throughout the entire game. And I'm sorry to end it like that, folks, I really am, but that is Death of the Outsider and the final Dishonored game covered. I hope that we can get more in the future, I really do, but I do doubt that will ever happen. And even though this game was lacking compared to the rest, playing all 3 back-to-back makes for a phenomenal series, and I am sad to see that it's over. We did it, folks! Every single achievement in every single Dishonored game. Yeah, that was a lot, but I tell you what, the entire series is an absolute masterpiece. I loved every second of this, even with Death of the Outsider. It's not as good as it could have been, but it was still a lot of fun to go through. And of course, if you have watched this from the start to the end, folks, thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. That an hour and a half, that's insane. And of course, if you did watch from the very start to the very end, I think you should subscribe personally because, you know, please. However, I've taken up far too much of your time already, folks, so thank you all so much again for watching. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget to swing by the Twitch as well. If you do like the achievement grinds, it would be lovely to have you watch my suffering live. It's always fun. And a massive thank you to all of my Patreon subscribers as well, who help make sure that this continues and I keep living my dream, so thank you all. Folks, I hope you have an absolutely fantastic rest of your morning, evening, noon or night, and I will hopefully see you all in the next achievement grind. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye for now.